Hey there, it's Ben from patternprofits.net bringing you the weekly watch list. I'm changing things up this week, starting off taking a look at 50 FFTY, the IBD 50. We have a nice little tight consolidation here right at the volume point of control, volume shelf right there, and just now starting to reclaim that anchored VWAP from off of the high. So we're going to see if this can make some upside progress, take out that descending trend line. And we have the SPY and the Qs. Qs actually printed a new high on Friday, right there at the highs. So we're in good shape. I won't bother with those. IWI hasn't changed much from what we discussed last week. So let's get right into the watch list. You guys know this one well. I pointed it out the last few weeks. Playboy still in the pinch there. We're looking for that to come out. That's anchored VWAP from off of the prior low, anchored VWAP from off of the high. Pinballing between those two levels. We're looking for it to come out of their inside day on Friday. Volume shelf point of control. 1020 MA cloud just below. So look for that to make the turn. We also have rumors that Playboy may be added to the Russell Small Cap Index too. So we'll see if that has any effect on it. Also watching CHX, not sure what happened there. CHX and CPE, both of these may be a little bit early, but these little flags starting to form here for both of them, CHX and CPE, both in oil and gas. We've been, tracking these for quite a while. We saw the breakouts and good volume on the breakouts for both of them. So looking for those to make progress, probably early. Like I said, we need maybe just 2 or 3 more days, and then if we can come ripping out of there at the end of the week, inside day in here. I think these are setting up really nice. Good volume as you see down here on the breakout, and then quiet volume as they consolidated sideways. So we'll see if they can make some progress after consolidating a little bit more, or if they just decide to come out of there early. 3 weeks tight list, APO. All of these so far are from the focus list. APO 5849. That was the 3 weeks tight high, so we're looking for that push through there. I've had this one on the radar the last couple weeks. I also have a big symmetrical triangle pattern in SSP, another focus list name, inside day on Friday. You've got cloud just above, volume shelf point of control just above 2, and descending trend line just above, ascending trend line as support below. So you're looking for that inside day to come out, reclaim, and then break through that descending trend line. But one to keep, I think, is well worth keeping on the radar. Let's see how it acts early in the week. It's a little bit early again, but that's why I want to let you know about it now. Outside of the focus list, I have applied materials. I think you want to watch the semis rather close next week. NVIDIA has looked great. This one in applied materials, 146 pivot above. May need to come up and handle out a little bit there, because from 140 to 146, be nice if you got a little shakeout up here, if it makes that run to shake out the last of the weak hands and then push through that 146 level. But regardless, that 146 pivot is the level that you want to keep an eye on. In the same group, we also have ZBRA. Thank my buddy Blake at Trade Tracer for putting this one on my radar at our when we did our spaces on Friday. He brought this one to my attention, kind of a VCP pattern here, and 518.66, the pivot above. That's the high point here in the center, but nice move on Friday. See if it can push through there and make some upside progress. I also have Skillz SKLZ. We talked about this one in the spaces Friday before the close. But what I like about this one, you really have anchored VWAP from off of the high, and this one here goes back to the September breakout. You'll just have to trust me on that. But you're right there. You had good volume on this push above, inside day, and then a kind of a quiet consolidation pullback on very light volume on Friday. Volume shelf point of control above. Actually, that's even a little bigger if I push this back. You'll see that most of that volume actually sits below the current price. So we always like to see that. If that comes ripping out of there, I think this is an easy to manage idea here using the anchored VWAP off of the high and the anchored VWAP off of that prior breakout. I have the one you can see that's a little bit lower there from the lows back in April. I also have this one a little lighter on the volume, although it had a huge move for the power earnings gap here. TV is the ticker. I believe this is out of Mexico. But you have a really solid power earnings gap, and then you've kind of danced around that anchored VWAP. Volume shelf point of control is below, and it danced around, it shook out, and now you have that turn back up, which we always like to see going to start turning that anchored VWAP back up to 1385, the high of the power earnings gap, as well as the pivot. So that's a level you want to keep an eye on. It's just below that now, 10 cents. So that one should be on your radar for a more traditional breakout there. I also have HYRE, HYRE. We talked about this one on Friday too. Had a huge volume breakout, power earnings gap, nice volume, and now starting to tighten up a little inside day on Friday. A little kind of pennant formation forming here would be nice if it does go sideways a little bit more, create more of an ascending triangle here. But not sure that will happen, especially if this inside day comes out with any kind of upside momentum. 1796, the level above that you're going to want to keep an eye on. Again, it's the big volume back here that puts it on my radar on the velocity scan. So definitely worth keeping an eye on. Going over to some of the power earnings gap names, I mentioned that I took this one late last week. DXDKS, again, we've got a kind of flag pattern up high after a big volume power earnings gap. Let me blow this up for you a little bit so you can see some of the details in there. Little flag, you hammered late back above the anchored VWAP from the gap. Volume shelf point of control just below. This hammer confirms, and I think we're making a run to 100 first. That would be the first area. Those round numbers sometimes act as resistance. And then I'd look for, if it pushes through that 100 level, look at 101.30, which was the prior high, as the next pivot. So looking for progress there. I also have, this one has been on our radar. We've been watching for a couple weeks now, HVT. I like the way that this one has consolidated those gains. It's a hot group. The furniture, for whatever reason, there's a bunch of them running love. But this has consolidated now, these gains. You had a little flag pattern, tried to break out of that flag and go, completely reversed, did the squat, came back down, tested the longer term trend line, and now has pushed back above anchored VWAP from the power earnings gap, turned it up, and now a nice candle there on Friday, 48.91, the pivot, looking for a push through there. I also have this another one, power earnings gap that we've been watching, HAYW, Hayward Holdings, pool business, power earnings gap, and now you've retested with an inside day there. Very easy to manage the risk here using the anchored VWAP from off of the power earnings gap. If you pull that over, you'll see that your volume shelf point of control is just below. So look for that inside to come out to the upside and this one to make progress. We're also looking at, actually, this is probably one of the most watched on my list for next week, one that I'll really be keeping an eye on how it acts early in the week. Monster numbers from DocuSign, another one of those prior leaders that just put up a huge monster power earnings gap here, big volume, a big green candle, which we like to see. That anchored VWAP reclaim comes off of the high from back here. So we're back above that level. I see this as a double bottom pattern here, 236.11, the pivot. But what I really like is how high up in the range this closed. And if you're watching that high, 234.89 was the high here, and then 236.11 just above. I like to use the high as a pivot, and then when you have 236.11 as the pattern pivot as well, any strength through this area I think is something you're going to want to get involved in. I'm not completely ruling out that we put in a little handle or shake out here or flag out a little bit and go, but at the same time, if we take out that high and take out that pivot, I'm probably going to jump right on that as well. And then I've got one more for you, that's VIVE. And another power earnings gap. Kind of a similar look to DOCU, but we'll have to see if DOCU pulls back. This is kind of what it would look like and what I was referring to. But you have a same type of double bottom base here, 288.51 is the pivot, and you close just below it. So you also have anchored VWAP from off of that power earnings gap. Nice volume on that. We want to see that price push through and above, get back above the pivot, get back above the anchored VWAP from off of the power earnings gap, turn that back up, maybe retest, and then go. That's what we're looking for and how we usually like to handle those. If I bring the volume by price over, you'll see that that's kind of an important level right there as far as the volume shelf goes. Let me bring it over a little more. And you'll see that the point of control is just above that high from Friday. So if it can push through there, I think we can make some upside progress there and then use that level. You would take it only on strength, and then you use that level, a close below that level as your stop. So manage that risk tightly. That's what we're always looking at and looking for on these entries. I hope you guys have a great trading week, and I will see you over on FinTwit.